All right, folks, welcome back to another market update. Today, we're coming from a new location. I'm actually at my in-laws' house in Ottawa. So that is why we are in the basement office, as they say. I'm Tom Moore, your host. Today, we are going to be going over the Halifax real estate market stats for June 2025. Wanted to get this out, obviously, because it's early in the month. I guess July 3rd today. Um, Yes. Okay, good. Once again, for those first tuning in, how we generally do things, stick around for the first set of slides. It's going to be Bedford. We'll go over the numbers, give you a little bit of familiarity, and then you can skip along the bottom of the bar there to the neighborhoods that you're interested in. Once again, I am Tom Moore. I'm a realtor in Halifax with eXp Realty and the Anzar Group. Here's my contact right there. And if you're looking to make a move, sell your house, a little bit more information on the market, anything like that, feel free to reach out. There should be a meeting link below as well that you can set up a meeting with me for. But without further ado, let's get right into it. This is Bedford, Nova Scotia. So on each area that we do, we're going to have a similar kind of layout to this. Obviously, this big map here is where we're pulling the data from. And then we obviously have several numbers, two slides of numbers, which will basically tell us what's gone on just in the last month here. Um, Starting to think about doing kind of a similar comparison to this on more of a yearly basis, just to show you guys what things are doing kind of on a year-to-year basis. It'd be good to hear your feedback on that if that's something I should do. I'm thinking I'm going to do something like that with the help of my wonderful assistant, Kai. Okay, so uh, when it comes to the numbers here, we've got the black number and the blue number. Black is obviously going to be for June. Blue is going to be for May in this case. We're in July, but we don't have any of the market stats for July. So up first, we got total sales, pretty self-explanatory, 36 there. We probably have reached the peak right around May and June, early June, probably more so May. Days on market, pretty self-explanatory. This is how many days on market on average. Things are staying on market before they kind of fall off. So 6, 5 are going to be very fast, high signals of a seller's market. And then once we get up over kind of a week and a half, 2 weeks, that's one indicator of a buyer's market. However, the more important indicator is going to be actually right down here. Sell price to list price percentage is going to give us a bit more information. Take those things together, put them together, gives us a bit of a better snapshot. Showings per listing. This is just telling you how many buying groups are going through. Generally, when there's, let's say there's, 5 houses that come up for sale if they're priced correctly, and there's five buyers, then there should be kind of almost the delta of one buyer each time. So overall, that doesn't make too much sense, obviously, in this context. But basically, we're just looking to see, kind of comparing last month to this month in terms of, okay, has there been a buyer that's fallen off? What's going on in this area more specifically? So, in this case, we had 7.3 in May. Now we've got 6.2. That likely means there has been, on average, one less buyer looking in that area. That makes sense. New listings. We've got 48 new listings versus 72 last month. This is a pretty good indicator. Sometimes the numbers here can be off in terms of what happens month to month. Generally, though, this is a good indicator of where that bell curve line is going throughout the year. Obviously, with the low points at late December, early January, and then the high points being, May, early June, stuff like that. Obviously, May was warmer. And then sale price list percentage, this is simply a number that if a house was priced at $100 in the month of June, it would have sold for 98.5%. When we start getting below that 97.5%, 97, starting to see a bit more of a buyer's market. And then once we get up above 90, 98-ish, start to see a bit more, sorry, reverse. Once we get above 98, we start to see a seller's market. And then when it's below that, we start to see a bit more of a buyer's market. This just means competition. Obviously, if there's 100 houses that did sell in the month of June, well, we had 36 sales. Some of those would have been likely over asking, some of them would have been under asking. This is just an average snapshot here. I'm on vacation right now. That's why some of my words aren't making the most sense. Okay, monthly comparison. We've got the single family here and the condo right below it. Not every neighborhood is going to have both of these. Downtown will be the only one that has just the condo. There will be few that have just the single family stuff. Again, we're pulling from 36 uh, properties that sold for this number. Bedford, like many regions, are going to have very nice areas with higher priced homes and some more affordable areas. This is just to give you an overall snapshot of what the prices in that market are doing. Single family, we saw it at 775. And then in May, we saw it at 770. So actually pretty close there. Price per square foot, very self-explanatory there, stayed relatively the same. Condo side of things, we saw it at 460 in the month of June, and then 443 in the month of May. Price per square foot, we saw it at 358 month of June, 374 month of May. Okay, let's go on to Bridgewater, a community about an hour and a half away. Total sales, we saw 15 versus 10 last month. Days on market stay relatively the same at 8. Showings per listing, 3.8, so keeping it pretty close there. New listings, obviously significantly less than the month prior. 17 in June, 24 in May, 99.7% sale price list price percentage. So Bridgewater's moving pretty good. We've got a bit of a seller's market indicator there. We've got almost a week on market, which is actually relatively fast in the big scheme of things. And then sale price list price percentage, we got 99.7%. So, once we get above 2 weeks on that time on market, then we can see folks, if I'm taking a buyer and it's something over 2 weeks has been on the market, generally I'm expecting us to be able to get something under ask. It's just your bargaining power goes up as a buyer the longer something sits on the market. And if something moves very quickly, obviously, the sellers have the argument to say, well, you're coming in at 10, 15, 20, 50 grand below asking. We've only been on the market for 4 or 5 days. We've got a few showings lined up, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of generally the mindset there. Single family side of things, saw it go up about 30,000 to 430,000. Price per square foot also went up from 217 to 231. Clayton Park in Rockingham, located just off the peninsula. When I talk about the peninsula, I've been having this conversation with quite a few outside buyers. The peninsula is this little island here, where you see the west end. There's also the north end there. It's this island that kind of schemes down when you're looking at a map of Halifax. 29 total sales, staying relatively the same. 12 days on market versus 8 last month. Showing per listings 5.3, just down by one buyer, essentially. New listings stayed pretty much the same, actually, at 54. Sale price, list price percentage dropped 0.5% to 98.2%. I would still consider that a seller's market. Single family monthly comparison, 660,000, we'll call it, versus 720,000. You can see that this is a pretty wide range. It's not like all of a sudden we saw the average prices dip. This is one of the reasons why I think I'm going to have to start doing one of those yearly kind of percentage looks at things. It will give us a bit more of a better perspective there. And I got to figure out how to make these into shorts a little better, I think, too. I think these would be good for Instagram and everything else. Anyways, I'm talking to myself here. Okay, price per square foot, 286 in June versus 303 in May. Condo side of things, we saw it at 374 versus 427, so pretty significant decrease there as well. Price per square foot, we saw it 322 in May and 358 in June. There we go. Cole Harbour, one of our more areas with a larger transactions, tends to move quite quick here, as you'll see. Yeah, it's like consistently up above 100% sale price to list price percentage. Last month, we obviously had 10 days on market, which was relatively slow for Cole Harbour, particularly considering that it was still 101.1% last month. But the total sales stayed pretty much the same at 24. Showings per listings, again, high traffic area, 8.2 showings per listing. New listings actually went up here to 39 versus 26 last month. As I said, sale price list percentage still above 100% at 101.4%, and the single family monthly comparison moved up 17,000 to 527.5. Price per square foot went from 279 to 291. Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, we saw 71 total sales versus 64 last month. 7 days on market versus 10. 8.2 showings per listing versus 8.9. No, new listings was 92 and 91 last month. Sale price list percentage up 1.5% to 101.5%. So we're still seeing that bit of a seller's market there. Monthly comparison, single family monthly comparison was 551 versus 575 in May. Price per square foot up, we'll call that $15 to 308. And the condo side of things, we saw it drop quite significantly, 80,000 to 440,000. Price per square foot, 379 versus 440. I got an interesting video coming out on Dartmouth here in the next week or yeah, next week with my editor on one of the Dartmouth neighborhoods. Kind of ties into that development video I actually shot there not too long ago. And just kind of where Dartmouth, I think some of the neighborhoods in Dartmouth will be going over the next several years. Okay, downtown. This is only condos. Again, I mentioned that at the start. Three total sales, 11 versus 11 last month. 32 days on market. That's quite significant. Can really, downtown is quite frankly a bit of a crapshoot. It depends on what stuff is on the market. Those, $1 million condos don't tend to move very quick, but there can also be some cheaper stuff that does move. So it varies what occurs here. Days on market 32 versus 10 last month, 3.1 showings per listing. Again, one of the areas with one of the lower shows per listing other than outside of the city, obviously. New listings 12 versus 8 last month. Sale price list percentage, we saw it drop 0.2% to 97. That's pretty much a balanced market. 97.5 is almost what I consider the most balanced market. But it can be a little bit of both. Obviously, we're getting into the nitty-gritty details there. Condo side of things, obviously, 635 versus 470 last month. Price per square foot was 604 versus 546. Eastern Passage, Cow Bay, 20, 25 minutes to downtown Halifax, no traffic. Other side, so this is the Dartmouth side of the city. 22 total sales versus 26 last month. 5 days on market versus 7 last month. Showings per listing, we saw 5.9 versus 9.1 last month. New listings was 21 versus 34. And the sale price to list percentage actually was up quite significantly here from 100% to 103.4%. It's a big punch there coming out of Eastern Passage. And that, different things happen. Posting season, that's a very high, I would say, overall percentage military community. So you have people, Air Force, Navy, and then that brigade and the command that may be there. Although if you're moving here for command, you're probably making a bit more of a expensive salary, as they say. Single family monthly comparison, 440,000 versus 504,000 in the month of May. And then the price per square foot went from 315 down to 282 in June. Eastern Shores, Lawrencetown. This is a very large area, can be between like an hour to 25 minutes in driving distance, depending on where you are. 9 total sales versus 17 last month. 6 days on market versus 4. We're moving quick here. People are looking for those cottages outside of the city and whatnot. This can drive a little bit more traffic out in this area. Showings per listing, 4.8 versus 5.8. 20 new listings in June versus 22 in May. Sale price to list percentage stay the same at 100%. Single family monthly comparison. This is the time to sell if you're out here. If you're looking to buy, you can often get things at a pretty steep discount early winter, as you'll see. So, these areas, these summer cottagey areas, you can usually find deals if the sellers are motivated. Early winter, particularly around Christmas. Uh, that's more of a rule for most places. If a house is listed over Christmas, you're probably going to be able to get the best deal of the year on that house then, because if people are letting you walk through their house over Christmas, generally they're pretty motivated. So, okay, single family monthly comparison, we saw 440 versus 590,000 in May. Um, Price per square foot, we saw 263 versus 264 in May. Enfield, Nova Scotia, just located outside of just past the airport, I guess, can be, 45 minutes. A lot of these numbers I give you driving times, I think of it with no traffic because often I am driving around outside of commuting hours. And if I'm going out here, it's the reverse commute. So, you can tack on 10, 15 minutes probably in rush hour times. Total sales, we got 28 versus 27 in May. 14 days on market versus 22 last month. Showings per listing 4.1. New listings 35 versus 41 last month. Sale price list price percentage up 0.7% to 100%. Monthly comparison. Single family side of things, we saw 493 versus 555. Price per square foot was 288. It's now 283, so down $5. Fall River, Nova Scotia, 18 total sales versus 15 last month. Days on market, we saw 21 versus 29 last month. Showings per listing, 5.1 versus 7.2 last month. New listings, uh, we saw 22 new listings versus 23, and the sale price list percentage 98%. So still, Fall River's a unique one just because it's almost like it was the hybrid first kind of neighborhood where people almost bought these beautiful homes that you could kind of almost have cottage living style with all the lakes there, that were on larger lots, unlike Dartmouth, the city of lakes, but it was more developed. When Fall River really started getting built up years ago, you were getting larger lots on the lakes. You were still, 25, 30 minutes to downtown. And so even in the wintertime, this place still tends to move, but sometimes in the winter we do see it slow down. Single family side of things, we saw 757,000 versus 808 or 809 in May. Price per square foot was 276, it's now 303. Hammonds, Plains, and Lucasville, 21 total sales versus 19 last month. 9 days on market versus 23 last month. So that's speeding up a bit there. Showings per listing 4.8 versus 5. New listings was 43 versus 31 last month. And then the sale price to list price percentage, we saw it at 99.3% versus 98.4%. Single family side of things, 829 versus 848. So still staying, this fluctuates, I would say, between like 700 and sometimes it's up in the nines. But generally, you're getting, 20-year-old houses, large lots, big homes. Only thing out here is sometimes your drive time to downtowns can be a little bit longer, depending on where you are. If you look at these little like grayed out areas, these are kind of the neighborhoods, and if you have to go here, you have to kind of snake along these little roads, which can add a bit to your drive time. Price per square foot, we saw 318 versus 319. 19 total sales, 18 days on market versus 6 last month. This is the North End. 18 days on market is quite long for the North End, although I will be honest and say that it has been fluctuating quite a bit lately. Showings per listing, 3.6. That's quite low. New listings, 16 versus 22. Sale price list percentage, we saw at 99.7% versus 98.4% last month. Single family side of things, 610,000 versus 600 last month. Price per square foot was 442 versus 443. Condo side of things, we saw it drop about 100,000 to 437,000, and the price per square foot dropped as well from 492 to 447. Sackville and Beaverbank, we saw 62 total sales, 12 days on market. Showings per listing was 6.6. New listings, 77. Sale price to list price percentage, we saw Um, 100% last month versus 107. Sorry, 100% versus 107, 100.7. So staying pretty strong here in Sackville. Single family side of things, we saw it go from 531 up to 555.5, and the price per square foot stayed the exact same at 286. Spryfield and Armdale, 34 total sales down 10. 5 days on market down 1. Showings per listing down about 1 to 5.8. 42 new listings versus 63 in the previous month. And sale price to list price percentage up 0.3%, still holding strong at 100 there. So, things are moving. Single family side of things, we saw it at 600 in May, 630 now. Uh, Price per square foot was 290 versus 291. Condo side of things, we saw it move from 402 to 470, and the price per square foot went from 291 to 427. South End Halifax, 15 total sales versus 12. Man, we're moving there compared to the North End. Jeez. Uh, 12 days on market versus 5 last month. Okay, increase there. That's a bit of an odd one. Um, Showings per listing 3.7, new listing 17 versus 31. Okay. And then sale price list percentage, so holding strong, 98.7%. Single family went up about 150K to 1.5 million. Price per square foot went up $100 to $520. And the condo side of things went down about 20K to 530,000. Price per square foot went down, we'll call that 44 bucks to $496. Interesting. South End is hot. Those $1 million homes, they're moving. It's funny. I was looking at a Calgary one of these earlier, and they were saying that it was the best time to buy $1 million home. Um, but obviously, if we've got high pricing there, 12 days on market, I mean, that makes sense because it's longer. Showings per listing, yeah, and sale price, yeah. Interesting. Okay, so short stats. Total sales were 9 versus 16 last month. 9 days on market versus 17. Showings per listing 2.6 versus 3.4. Again, this is cottage country, so it's just a bit of a crapshoot when it comes to some of these outside area numbers in terms of who's going through, shopping for cottage, long-term living. People over the years have certainly been more, what's the word, open to a bit of a longer commute in exchange for more rural, nicer property living. 43 new listings versus 37 last month, 98.8% versus 97.5. Single family month comparison was 585. It's now 522, and the price per square foot is 297 versus 348 the month prior. Sydney, Nova Scotia, 27 total sales, 4 days on market, moving quick up there. 4.5 showings per listing down from 5.6. The new listings was 37 versus 46 last month, and the sale price to list price percentage was 100% versus 97.3%. Monthly comparison for the single family side of things, we saw it at 325 versus 301. Price per square foot was 181 in May, 189 in June. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Tantallon and Hubley, 22 total sales versus 15 last month. Uh, 19 days on market versus 6. So obviously expanding there. Showings per listing stayed relatively the same. New listings 15 versus 31 last month. So the buyer pool is still quite strong there. Sale price list percentage dropped 2% to 98.1%. Will be interesting to see what happens next month out there. And then the monthly comparison was 760. It's now 725. Price per square foot was 300. It's now 283 a square foot. Timberlea and Beechville, 28 total sales versus 22. 4 days on market, down from 7. Showings per listing quite high here at 7.8. New listings was 29, was 27. Sale price to list price percentage is 100.7% in May, 100.6% in June. So staying relatively the same there. Single family monthly comparison up from 550 to 690. Price per square foot was 295. It's now 296. Truro, Nova Scotia. another commuter area about an hour away north, divided highway. 17 total sales versus 16 last month. 4 days on market versus 11, so that one's speeding up there. Showings per listing 4.5 versus 4.6. New listings is 19, down from 35 last month. And the sale price to list price percentage is up 1.4% to 100%. So definitely a seller's market there. Single family side of things, we saw 343 in June, up from 305 in May. Price per square foot up also quite significantly, $26 to $215. West End Halifax. Okay, so this is moving quicker than the North End for sure. Uh, Total sales 24 versus 5. Sorry, 24 versus 17 the month of May. 5 days on market versus 4 last month. Showings per listing is 6.1 versus 7.3. New listings stayed the same at 24, and the sale price list percentage was 99.1%, so still quite a strong seller's market. Yeah, geez, these West End prices, they're climbing. 900,000 for a single family in the West End versus 835 last month, and the price per square foot went down from 498 to 492. Obviously, West End is a large area. We're pulling a lot of data from there, so the numbers can be quite different. Windsor, Nova Scotia, last spot. 23 total sales versus 21 last month. 11 days on market versus 25. Showings per listing is 4.2 versus 4.6. New listings 34 versus 41. Sale price to list price percentage 99.2%, up from 97.2%. And the Windsor stats is 470,000 versus what was 465 the previous month. Price per square foot down $1 to $288 square foot. Okay, folks. Well, I hope you enjoyed this quick video. Once again, I am Tom Moore, and if you're looking for any more information on the real estate market, I think I'm gonna have to figure out how to mix around some of that data so that we can start doing a yearly comp, maybe bi-weekly as well. Kind of do this one at the start of the month, and then the other one near the middle of the month, just to give us a better snapshot of what maybe has gone, or maybe we'll do a 1 and a 5 year trend comparison. That might be interesting. I'll have to see if I can manipulate the data. That's the only thing about the interprovincial bodies is everybody offers up different data. So you got to figure out how you can kind of tweak it for presentations like this. Okay, folks, I'll leave you to it. I hope you're having a great summer, and we got a couple of interesting videos coming out over the next couple of weeks. We got Hannah back, so the editing quality will be sky high compared to what I do. Other than that, have a great day. We'll see you in the next video.